Yes, the big day has arrived. Not the big day. The big day is when you're able to get your hands on this and hopefully read this as well. But the big day in the sense that I physically get to see a copy of the book I've written, and it's a pretty kind of weird feeling, very satisfying. Pitch Publishing, who are obviously publishing the book, have done a fabulous job in making it look good. That's the back as well. And I can't wait for you to read all this. 13th of March, it's out. You can pre-order on Amazon. That's what I'm kind of urged to ask you to do. I'll stick a link in the description. There's photos in there somewhere as well, that kind of thing. Just to give you a wee kind of flavour of what's in it, some of the chapter titles, and you can read into this what you want. We've got These Are the Champions. We've got The Hilarious Takes They Will Now Be Trying to Bury. We've got Believing in Ange. We've got Kyogo Furuhashi, Inspiring Hope. We've got Callum McGregor, Fuel the Fire. We've got, what else? Ange in the Media. We've got Tom Rogic, When Lightning Strikes. He's got his own chapter. Can't forget about Tom. Leah Labada and Jota have their own chapter. We've got one on the defence. One's on Ange's time with the Socceroos, with Ryan McGowan being the kind of feature in that one. There's one on Ange's time with Yokohama Marinos, with John Hutchison being the kind of main guy in that, and there's one to do with Barcelona as well, with Matt Smith being the main guy. There's numerous contributors in this, not least that guy there, you might know him, Scott McDonald, who has agreed to do the foreword for the book, and actually he's written the foreword as well, which is kind of the step further than just agreeing to do it. So I've rambled on too long about that. Hopefully you'll forgive me. It's a pretty kind of cool day, and hopefully at some stage you'll buy the book and fancy reading it. But if you don't, no hard feelings. Right, let's move on, because we are going to talk about Celtic, and we're back this weekend. We're facing St Johnstone away over on the east of Scotland at their wonderful home, McDiarmid Park, with not a great pitch, but we'll come on to that. St Johnstone are currently sitting 8th in the Scottish Premiership. They were on a run of 7 straight losses in all competitions, going back to their Christmas Eve trip to Celtic Park, but they beat Motherwell 2-0 at Fir Park in midweek, which admittedly is not a major triumph given the state that Motherwell are in at the moment, but it was still a good victory, and they are kind of at the top of that relegation struggle. I don't think Aberdeen are going to get relegated this year, but I'd say it will be at least one of the other 5 sides, and St Johnstone are a wee bit clear of the other 4 at this stage. But a game that we should hopefully be winning. As I say, the pitch is really not in a good state, as you can see from this photo from the weekend before last. So it may well be a day to just get there and get the job done. We do have a good bit to get through on today's video, so I'm just going to fire through it. Today's press conference, I've kind of held on a bit until we got all the press conference stuff in before I did this video, so that's why we're a wee bit later coming to you. Joe Hart was the player up. Always enjoy listening to Joe Hart. He is, without doubt, a future manager, the way he speaks. His press conference lasted for over 15 minutes, which is quite long by their usual standards. Plenty of interesting details in there. Nothing that's probably going to make major headlines, but I would encourage you to watch it if you kind of want a good feeling for what's going on at Celtic right now. He spoke about Ange, lots of good details about that, the way the team train. He actually made some pretty interesting comments on O as well, and what his Celtic teammates are kind of thinking of O in his early days. So as I say, I'd encourage you to give that a watch. In terms of Ange, some pretty good stuff from him as well today. A lot of really interesting bits. He mentioned a role that Harry Kewell has played with Dyson Maeda. He was asked a question about Maeda and that maybe that added confidence Maeda's had since coming back from the World Cup. And he went into that, but he also spoke about Harry Kewell having put a bit of work in with Maeda as well, which I thought was interesting. And spoke about O and Iwata as well, and how long it could take before they're starting games. I'm going to say it again, I really think an Iwata start out of the blue is coming soon. I'm not saying it's going to be Sunday. It may well be the Scottish Cup game against St Mirren the following week. I could kind of see that happening. It's probably more likely to come at Celtic Park, but I just think it's kind of in the pipeline, let's just say. He was also asked about Yorgos Giakoumakis. This is quite interesting, the bit that most people have picked up on from his press conference. On Giakoumakis, Ange said, "To be honest, it's not on my radar anymore. I will probably hear it about the same time as you guys. Maybe if you're on Instagram, you'll hear about it earlier than me." If you are on Instagram, he's kind of true. If you are on Instagram, you probably will find out about it sooner, because it will probably come in a post from Giakoumakis before it's actually announced by either Celtic or Atlanta United. I think that was the case with Moritz Jens anyway, maybe with Abelgard as well. So yes, he was also, I should say, by the way, just before kind of moving on, I think it is interesting, those Ange comments, that a lot of people saying, he's effectively, washed his hands of Giakoumakis. I think that's a little bit severe. I don't get the impression there's real animosity between the two. I think it's just a parting of the ways, and I don't think there's any real need for drama. But I do think it's interesting how, Ange has effectively kind of moved on at this stage, and it's just the perfect way to deal with players who want to leave the club. I absolutely loved Giakoumakis, and I'm not going to go over all of this again, but I think it's very clear that it's about the here and now with Ange. And Giakoumakis, as Ange said at the end of that answer, is he doesn't think he's going to kind of be back in the camp at all. So that's the way Ange does business, and I don't think you'll find too many Celtic fans disagreeing with it. He was also asked by a reporter if Kyogo is now undroppable, and he gave a really interesting answer. I've highlighted the end bit here, which I thought was great. He said, "I know that people love the cliches. There's no best 11. There's no one that's undroppable. There's no one that's my favourite. As I said before, I love them all equally." And I thought that was magic. Ange also gave some insight on Real Hatate, who I get the impression that he really loves, equally, of course. But real kind of affection for Real Hatate and how he goes about his business. Hatate, by the way, apparently falls under Gavin Strachan's remit. So I'm trying to kind of divvy this up and work out how the coaches are doing it. I'm assuming John Kennedy would kind of take the defence. I'm pretty sure that's what happens. Maybe attackers would be Harry Kewell. That would make sense, given they mentioned Maida as well. And then maybe midfield would be Gavin Strachan. Is that the way we think it works? Anyway, he said that Hatate always wants feedback. Like, he's the first guy that will come in after games and ask how he did, how he can improve. The feedback last year from Ange and the coaching team was that they felt he was kind of falling out of games a little bit as they went on. Probably a fitness issue. And I think that's something that we all commented on at the tail end of last season as well. I remember one moment in the derby win at Ibrox that we had when he was trying to chase back and he just looked completely done in. And I don't think we've seen that this season. I think he looks much fitter. He looks stronger as well. A few people have commented on that in the comments. Ange commented on it earlier today as well. And he thinks now it's more attacking output, more goals, more assists is what he needs to take him to the next level. And I think since the World Cup, he's chipped in with a lot of assists, a couple of goals as well, both from fullback against tomorrow's opposition. So promising signs there. In terms of team news, that's what you're probably really wanting to know. Anthony Ralston is back in training. I think we said that in midweek, but he won't be available for Sunday. Ben Siegrist is the other player out with a calf complaint. Still out, but doesn't seem too bad. So we're kind of as we were for the midweek game. This is what I'm going with team-wise, with Joe Hart in goals and a back four of Alistair Johnstone, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Carl Starfelt and Greg Taylor. Unchanged there. Just don't think you would really change them at the moment, given how they're playing. Midfield, go with Callum McGregor, Real Hatate and Aaron Moy. And a front three of Liel Abada, Jota and Kyogo. I kind of reached a point when I was doing that team today for the first time where I kind of came to the realisation that I don't think it massively matters who plays on Sunday. I mean, maybe in slightly, bigger games, that becomes more of a factor. Certain players' strengths fit certain big games better, if that makes sense. But, I mean, I think for Sunday's game, you could probably start anyone out of a core of maybe 16, 17, 18 players, and you wouldn't see the level of a performance drop drastically, if at all. I think that's the point we've reached. I mean, the front three, for example, Abada, Kyogo, Jota. I mean, fair enough, Kyogo's kind of all we've got in terms of being fully fit strikers at the moment. But on the wings, you could start Haksabanovic, you could start Maida, James Forrest, who has a good record at St Johnstone, could start at the weekend. And I don't think it would make a massive difference. So I'm kind of happy with whatever we see. It'd be nice to see Aaron Moy back in after he missed midweek in terms of starting, but I thought that Matt O'Reilly was great in midweek. Could we see Matt O'Reilly and Aaron Moy alongside McGregor? Because Hatate seems to be the one out of those three that plays every game, and it's either alongside Moy or O'Reilly. Who knows? I'm blabbering a little bit, but the key point there is that Celtic have so many options right now, and I don't think it makes a massive difference who actually plays. One thing I want to mention just before we go, got a comment in our post-match reaction the other night from Foxy Granny, great name, saying, not enough being said about how Celtic are the highest scoring team in European football's top flight divisions at present. That's 74 in 24. Incredible feat. So I actually looked into this after we got this comment in. Spent far too long yesterday looking at league tables for countries like Slovenia and Hungary, when I should really have been doing something worthwhile. But I effectively came to the conclusion with the following caveats: that Celtic have netted more league goals this season than any other team in one of Europe's top 40 top flights, and that is hardly catchy what I've just said. So let me just show you this and explain what I'm talking about. So effectively we're looking at teams from any European top flight that isn't like a complete diddy league like Gibraltar, for example, because I feel like 8, 9, 10 nils are commonplace in those leagues, and a lot of those teams have scored a crazy amount of goals. So effectively any of the top 40 European leagues, and look how far clear Celtic are than other teams there. I mean, second place, we are 17 goals ahead of Genk. Now, I know something you might want to point out is that the Scottish League has played far more matches than the likes of England. I think Germany, for example, Bayern Munich have played 18 games, Celtic are 24 in the league. That's why I put the wee bracket thing there after the goal tally of the goals per game average. And even then, we come across really well. Slavia Prague are actually the only ones with a better goals per game average. So I think that's quite interesting. I think it shows that Celtic score a hell of a lot of goals, and that's the conclusion I'll leave you with. Maybe you can come up with a better one than that. So yeah, hopefully more goals to come on Sunday. The game is a noon kickoff. It's live on Sky Sports, and your refereeing team is as follows. Referee David Dickinson, not that one, and sadly he's not famous enough to have a photo, by the way, the referee version anyway, so sorry David, but you are the referee. The assistant referees are Callum Spence and Ross McLeod. The fourth official is David Munro. The video assistant referee is Greg Aitken, and the assistant video assistant referee is David Dunn. Again, I assume not that one. We will have the reaction for you after the game on Sunday. I believe John is going to join me for that, so enjoy your Saturday. We've got a whole other day to go until we even get to the game. Enjoy Sunday, hopefully enjoy the match, and we'll chat to you on Sunday afternoon. See you later.